Good afternoon. It's Tuesday. This is the lecture for Wednesday, March 3rd. Our goal right here is how to use trig ratios to find the missing side of a right triangle when I have, and this is key, this belongs to your notes, when I have one angle and one side. If you have two sides and no angles, you're going to use Pythagorean theorem. But this is when you have one angle and one side. Well, actually you have another angle. You have the right angle as well. Okay. We have our three steps. First off, you must determine what trig function are we talking about. Well, if I'm looking at this one here, this is my reference angle. This is where I'm going to draw a stick figure. It's where I stand. It's where I am in the triangle. So I'm going to look across the triangle and I say I have an opposite side here. I'll put OPP. My right angle is here, which means across from it is the hypotenuse. And next to me is the adjacent. With this information, what trig function am I using? Well, we have our three choices. There's the sine function, which is the sine of an angle equals the opposite over the hypotenuse. The cosine function of cosine of an angle is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And the tangent function, where it's the opposite over the adjacent side. It's also known as SOHCAHTOA. I mean, that's one way to memorize it. So in this situation, I have a 20, which is opposite. I have an x, which is hypotenuse. I'm not using the adjacent. So I go back over here. I have opposite and I have hypotenuse. There is no adjacent. Therefore, I know I'm using the sine. So step 2, write the equation. The sine of the angle. The sine, cosine, and tangent are always about an angle. Sine of 30 equals opposite over hypotenuse. I have the equation. Now I'm going to go to the last step. Let's solve it. Well, I want to get x alone. There's a neat little rule in math that when you have a proportion, two fractions that are equal, you can switch the means or the extremes, which means this x can go to here, the sine 30 can go to there, and it's still equal. So now I'm going to say x over 1 equals 20 over sine 30. X is alone, right? I now take a calculator. And if you have a scientific calculator, it's really easy. You just do 20 divided by sine 30. If you do not have a scientific calculator, maybe all you have is your phone, and you don't want it to mess up, then what you're going to want to do is this. X equals 20 over, find out what the sine of 30 is. So I'm going to go sine 30, and I get 0.5, 0.5. Now, 20 divided by 0.5, 20 divided by 0.5. I get 40. So this hypotenuse here should equal 40. So I'm going to erase all this stuff, and let's see if it makes sense. If I put a 40 right here, the hypotenuse is the longest side of a triangle. The 20 is half of it. I mean, it's reasonable. So I'm going to say that, yes, I did a mental check. It works. I'm going to erase the rest of this work so I can have some space to do my work. And we're going to go down and do the next one. We got these guys here. Question 2. Step 1. Which trig function is it? Well, this is my reference angle. My stick figure is here. This is my opposite. Okay, I'm not using the opposite. That means I'm not using this one. I'm not using this one. I already know if I'm not using the opposite, but I have the adjacent and the hypotenuse, I'm doing cosine. Right? The hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. The adjacent is the other one next to my reference angle, the stick figure guy. So now I'm going to write the equation. It's cosine of 70 degrees equals, let's see, cosine adjacent over hypotenuse, adjacent x over 17. Okay, this one is a little bit different. The x is on top. Write this in your notes. In the previous one, x was on the bottom. It was sine of 30 equals 20 over x. And we had to do a little switching. Here, it's much easier because if you look at this, my x is being divided. My x is being divided by 17. So the opposite of divide by 17 is multiply by 17. I'm going to put the 17 here. These two will cancel out. My answer will be 17 cosine 70. And like I said, if you have a scientific calculator, you type it in just like you see it. If you don't have that, practice with your phone because this is what you should have step by step. Cosine of 70 is, hold on, the 17 is here. Cosine of 70 is 0.3420. So now I do 17 times that, times 17, and I get 5.81. Nearest tenth, right? So 5.8. Does it make sense? Does this look like it could be 5.8? The longest side is 17. The shortest side is 5.8. That looks realistic, reasonable. Always do a mental check. We'll do one more, and I'll show you a couple more after that. Well, let's see. Make this a little bit bigger so I can write more easily. Have you already figured out what this one is? This is my reference angle. I'm standing here in this corner. I look across the triangle, and that's my opposite. My hypotenuse is here. I'm not using the hypotenuse. I'm using the adjacent and the opposite. Okay. Well, that's tangent. The tangent of 69 degrees equals the opposite over the adjacent. TOA, right? T, opposite, adjacent. A is 20. Okay, question is X on top or bottom? Since it's on top, all I need to do is get rid of the 20. Multiply by 20. Multiply by 20. What I have left is 20 times tangent, 69 equals X, because these two cancel. All right, calculator time. Practice with your phone to see if you can get this correct. You can also do it on Desmos. 20 tangent 69. I read it all at once on my scientific calculator. I get 52.1. This on this here's 52.1 equals X. Let's check it out. Does it make sense? 52.1. It's the largest leg. It's not the largest side. The hypotenuse is larger. 20 is a short leg. 20 and 52. That's realistic. If it was 20 and like 150, I'd get nervous. Or if it was 20 and 10, I know it's totally wrong because it's supposed to be the longer of the two legs. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple more. I'm not going to work them out for you. I'm going to ask you for number 4. Which trig function is it? And then I'll just go opposite, adjacent. This is tangent. What does it equal? Okay, x is on bottom. What do? You switch the two. And then what's it going to equal? Try that one. How about number 5? Which function is this? O, A, H. That's cosine 65 equals my adjacent over x. Okay, I'm going to have to switch them again because x is a denominator. So I'll say x equals 20 over cosine 65. And then I'll solve it. The last one. So I'm standing here. Opposite hypotenuse, this is sine of what? Equals opposite over 15. How do I solve it? Remove the denominator. And that's all you have to do. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Can you use trigonometric ratios and what they mean to solve for a missing side of a right triangle?